Have you ever noticed that the moment you step back, the world leans in? That the less available you are, the more irresistible you become? It's not a trick. It's a powerful truth about human nature. He who controls himself is the master of others, said Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi. Detachment isn't about losing. It's about gaining control over your own life, and in turn, becoming the magnet others are drawn to. If you've ever felt like you're chasing too hard or giving too much, this is your wake-up call. Today, we're breaking down why stepping away makes you more attractive and how the wisdom of Stoicism can guide you to reclaim your power. Stay tuned, because the answers will change how you see yourself and how others see you. Section 1. Why emotional distance makes you instantly more attractive. Think about the last time you craved something you couldn't have. A rare item, an exclusive event, or even someone's undivided attention. Now ask yourself, was it the thing itself, or the idea of it slipping away that pulled you in? The same principle applies to emotional distance in relationships. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" The Stoic emperor understood that when we react too quickly or give too much of ourselves, we not only lose our balance but also our value in the eyes of others. Emotional distance allows you to avoid that trap and cultivate mystery, self-respect, and, ultimately, attraction. Let's take a relatable example. Imagine you're texting someone you're interested in. If they're constantly replying instantly, you start taking those replies for granted. But if they occasionally leave you waiting, even unintentionally, it creates curiosity. What are they doing? Why aren't they replying? That space they leave in the interaction pulls you closer, even without them lifting a finger. Here's the key. Emotional distance isn't about playing games. It's about preserving your own energy and respecting your boundaries. The more you respect your own time and emotions, the more others begin to respect and value them too. A real life story illustrates this perfectly. Take the tale of Marcus, a young professional who used to overexert himself in relationships. Texting constantly, over-explaining his feelings, and being overly available. One day, he decided to pull back, not as a strategy, but as an act of self-care. He focused on his career, hobbies, and personal growth. What happened next was surprising. Those who once overlooked him suddenly started reaching out. Why? Because they felt the shift. They realized his attention was no longer guaranteed, and that made it valuable. The beauty of emotional distance is its ability to create longing without hostility. It's not about rejection, but about saying, "I value myself enough to not always be available." When you step back, you're not abandoning the connection. You're allowing it to breathe. So, why does emotional distance work so powerfully? It's simple. It creates a sense of scarcity, a psychological principle that dictates people desire what feels rare. By giving someone space to miss you, you're offering them the opportunity to appreciate your presence fully. Actionable Stoic insight. Next time you feel tempted to over-explain, over-text, or overthink, pause and remember the Stoic principle of moderation. Let the space between interactions speak for itself. It's in that silence that intrigue grows. Now, let's explore how detachment can actually build unshakable confidence in the next section. Section 2. How detachment cultivates unshakable confidence. Imagine a ship caught in a violent storm, its sails flailing as it struggles to stay afloat. Now picture a solid, anchored lighthouse nearby, calm, unshaken, and guiding others to safety. Confidence is like that lighthouse, strong, steady, and unbothered by the chaos around it. Detachment, surprisingly, is the key to building that kind of unshakable confidence. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This idea is central to detachment. When you stop clinging to people, outcomes, or validation, you free yourself from emotional turmoil. This freedom doesn't just calm your mind, it makes you radiate confidence because you no longer fear loss. Think of a scenario we've all been in. You're messaging someone you like, and they take hours, or even days, to reply. Your instinct might be to panic, to question yourself, or even double text. But what if, instead, you let go of the need for their immediate attention? What if you stayed calm, focused on your own day, and trusted that their response, or lack of it, does not define your worth? That calm, silent assurance isn't just confidence, it's magnetic. Consider the story of Aaron, a young entrepreneur who struggled with insecurity. He would constantly seek approval from his partner, worried that her silence meant dissatisfaction. But one day, Aaron decided to shift his focus. Inspired by Stoicism, he began practicing detachment, not as a way to push her away, but as a way to reclaim his emotional independence. He invested in his hobbies, spent time with friends, and learned to be at peace in solitude. To his surprise, his partner started seeking him out more often. His calm, centered demeanor drew her in, where his previous neediness had pushed her away. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. When you let go, you allow confidence to flourish because you're no longer tied to external validation. You start to realize that your worth is inherent, not dependent on someone else's recognition of it. A psychological study on attachment backs this up. People are naturally drawn to those who exude self-reliance. Why? Because independence signals strength, and strength inspires trust. When you embody quiet confidence, you become the emotional anchor others seek in a world full of uncertainty. Whenever you feel the urge to seek reassurance from someone, pause and reflect, am I acting out of fear? Or am I secure in myself? Let go of the craving for approval, and you'll find that confidence arises naturally from within. In the next section, we'll uncover why we're drawn to what we can't have, and how understanding this can shift the dynamics in your favor. Ready to dive deeper? Section 3. Why we want what we can't have. Have you ever noticed how the moment something becomes unavailable, it feels infinitely more desirable? A limited edition sneaker sells out, and suddenly it's all anyone can talk about. A job position closes, and now everyone seems to want it. This is the psychological principle of scarcity, and it's a key driver of attraction. Not just for things, but for people. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This highlights a truthing: what is rare or not easily attained feels inherently more valuable. In relationships, this means that when you're constantly available, always responding, always chasing, you inadvertently lower your perceived value. People crave what feels just out of reach. And detachment is the subtle art of stepping back to let others step forward. Let's illustrate this with a story. Picture Sarah and Liam. Sarah liked Liam but wasn't overly invested. Until Liam started pulling back. Instead of texting her constantly or always being the one to initiate plans, he began focusing on himself. He started hitting the gym, dedicating time to his goals, and spending more time with friends. Sarah, initially indifferent, found herself thinking about him more and more. Why? Because Liam's absence created space for her to miss him. That space planted a seed of curiosity, and curiosity grew into attraction. Scarcity isn't about manipulation. It's about respecting your own time and energy. When you prioritize yourself and step back, you create a sense of mystery. People start to wonder what you're doing, where you're going, and why you're not as accessible as before. It's not about playing games. It's about living a life so full and fulfilling that others naturally want to be part of it. Even in modern psychology, the principle of scarcity is well documented. When something is less available, our brain perceives it as more valuable. It's why exclusive memberships, limited time offers, and rare collectibles are so appealing. The same principle applies to relationships. When you're always present and over-available, your presence can lose its spark. A practical Stoic approach here. Recognize your worth and protect it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Instead of trying to control how others see you, focus on how you see yourself. By stepping back, you give people the opportunity to notice your value rather than having to constantly remind them of it. Detachment isn't about withholding affection. It's about preserving your energy and creating room for others to appreciate you. It's not the chase that makes you desirable. It's your ability to walk away and focus on your own life. Ready to see how this dynamic makes you even more magnetic? In the next section, we'll explore the silent power of self-sufficiency and how it transforms your presence in any relationship. Section 4. The silent power of self-sufficiency. Independence isn't just about paying your bills or living on your own. It's a mindset, a quiet strength that radiates from within. There's an unspoken allure in being self-sufficient, in showing that you don't need anyone to complete you. In fact, the more you cultivate self-sufficiency, the more magnetic you become. The Stoics believed deeply in self-reliance. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This mastery begins with taking responsibility for your life, your emotions, your actions, and your purpose. It's not about rejecting relationships or connection. It's about ensuring that you're whole, even when you stand alone. Think about someone you admire deeply. Chances are they exude confidence and composure. They don't seem to depend on others for validation, yet people are naturally drawn to them. This is the power of self-sufficiency. It's an energy that signals strength, capability, and reliability. Let's consider a relatable story. Meet Alex. He was in a relationship where he often relied on his partner for emotional support, validation, and even decisions. Over time, the dynamic shifted. His constant reliance started to feel heavy to his partner, who began pulling away. Alex decided it was time for a change. He started focusing on his passions. learning a new skill, improving his health, and reconnecting with friends. He didn't do this to make anyone jealous. He did it to rebuild himself. As he grew more independent, something fascinating happened. His partner started noticing the change. His quiet confidence, his newfound energy. And she was drawn back to him. Why? Because self-sufficiency made Alex more attractive. He wasn't chasing her attention anymore. Instead, he was focused on his growth. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean closing yourself off from others. It means being so grounded in yourself that your energy inspires and uplifts those around you. People are naturally drawn to those who are secure in who they are. This is because independence creates stability, and stability is deeply attractive. Even in psychology, the principle holds. People gravitate towards those who are emotionally independent because it reduces relational pressure. A self-sufficient person doesn't need constant reassurance or validation. They bring balance, not burden, to a relationship. Seneca's wisdom perfectly encapsulates this idea. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. Your independence is one of those blessings. The more you cultivate it, the more you stand out. Not as someone who clings, but as someone who leads. True self-sufficiency doesn't mean rejecting others. It means embracing your ability to thrive independently. When you don't need someone to complete your life, your presence becomes a privilege, not a requirement. In the next section, we'll delve into how timing and communication add to this magnetic pull, making your presence even more desirable. Section 5. Why timing in communication creates desire. Patience, as the Stoics taught, is one of life's most powerful tools. When applied to communication, it becomes an art, a subtle dance of timing that stirs curiosity and builds emotional connection. The way you time your interactions isn't about playing games. It's about creating a rhythm that leaves room for anticipation and reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We lose the power of the moment when we act hastily." This isn't just advice for life. It's a principle for how we interact. Constantly being available, responding instantly, or over-communicating can dilute the significance of your words. By spacing out your responses and choosing when to engage, you introduce an element of suspense, a pause that makes your presence feel intentional and meaningful. Consider the psychological concept of intermittent reinforcement. It's the idea that unpredictability increases interest. Think about why cliffhangers in movies or TV shows captivate audiences. They create a gapa, a moment of waiting that keeps you hooked. In communication, this translates into not being predictable or overly accessible. Take, for example, a modern-day scenario. Imagine two people texting. One person replies instantly to every message, while the other takes their time, replying thoughtfully and sporadically. Who seems more intriguing? The person who doesn't reply immediately isn't necessarily ignoring the other. They're busy, focused on their own life, and deliberate about when they engage. This creates curiosity. What are they doing? Why aren't they rushing to respond? This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about embodying patience and mindfulness in how you connect. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Similarly, if your communication feels constant and predictable, it can lose its impact. Giving someone space to wonder and anticipate adds depth to the interaction. A historical example highlights this well. During wartime, letters between loved ones often took weeks or months to arrive. Despite, or perhaps because of, the delay, each letter was treasured, its words lingering in the recipient's mind long after being read. The weight made the connection feel precious. In a world of instant communication, embracing timing as an art can feel revolutionary. It's not about ghosting or ignoring, it's about making your words count. When you're not rushing to fill every silence, your presence becomes more deliberate and your messages more impactful. Even in relationships, timing creates a balance. It gives both people room to breathe and reflect, ensuring that interactions remain meaningful rather than routine. As Seneca observed, things that were hard to bear are sweet to remember. Patience in communication allows space for longing, appreciation, and depth to flourish. By practicing patience and mindfulness in your interactions, you elevate their importance. Timing isn't about withholding, it's about creating moments that feel intentional and meaningful. In the next section, we'll explore how mystery further magnifies attraction, adding yet another layer to the art of detachment and connection. Section 6. Why mystery magnifies attraction. Mystery is a powerful force in human relationships. It's not about deception or manipulation. It's about preserving a sense of intrigue. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology did. They believed in temperance, the art of holding back, and the value of leaving some things unsaid. As Seneca wrote, silence is a lesson in itself. Mystery thrives in the spaces where silence resides. When you share everything about yourself immediately, you leave no room for curiosity or discovery. But when you reveal yourself slowly, with intention, it allows others to become genuinely invested in learning more about you. Think of a great novel or movie. Would you keep reading if everything was laid out in the first chapter? Of course not. The same principle applies to personal connections. By pacing what you reveal about yourself, you create moments of intrigue, moments where someone leans in, wanting to know more. Consider a real-world example, a first date. If you spill every detail about your life, your history, struggles, and aspirations, you might unintentionally overwhelm the other person. But if you answer thoughtfully, sharing just enough to be authentic while holding some stories back for later, you create an experience that feels engaging and layered. The philosopher Epictetus advised, know first what you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. This applies to how you communicate as well. Share your values, passions, and intentions, but don't feel the need to lay every card on the table. Let your actions fill the gaps where your words stop. Mystery also creates a magnetic quality. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. It's why we're captivated by the stars in the night sky or the depths of the ocean. There's an allure to the unknown, a pull that makes us want to explore further. When you carry an air of mystery, you embody that same pull. Something deeper, something intriguing. A great historical figure who exemplified this was Marcus Aurelius. As an emperor and Stoic philosopher, he maintained a composed and reserved demeanor. He didn't feel the need to explain his every thought or decision. Instead, his presence spoke volumes, and his writings, like meditations, left readers to ponder his wisdom, drawing them closer even centuries later. In modern terms, oversharing on social media is the opposite of mystery. When you broadcast every moment of your life, you leave little room for people to wonder. But when you maintain a balance, posting selectively, sharing moments that are meaningful rather than constant updates, you build a stronger connection with others. Mystery isn't just about what you don't say. It's about the confidence to let others discover you on their own terms. It's about resisting the urge to over-explain and instead allowing your essence to unfold naturally over time. The next time you're tempted to overshare or over-explain, pause. Embrace the art of restraint. Let others earn the right to know you deeply, and you'll cultivate an aura of intrigue that's impossible to ignore. In the next section, we'll dive into how emotional restraint amplifies this sense of control and attraction, creating a foundation for authentic relationships. Section 7. The Art of Emotional Restraint. Emotional restraint isn't about bottling up your feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about mastering your emotions so they don't master you. The Stoics viewed emotions as natural, but emphasized the importance of responding, not reacting, to them. They believed that true strength lies in the ability to control one's impulses rather than be controlled by them. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This timeless lesson reminds us that emotional mastery begins within. In the context of relationships, this means staying calm and composed rather than being swept away by anxiety or frustration. Imagine this scenario. You're in a relationship, and your partner does something that upsets you. Maybe they forget an important date or seem distracted. The impulsive reaction might be to lash out or demand attention. But what if you paused instead? What if you took a moment to reflect and respond thoughtfully? That pause is where emotional restraint shines. A real-life example of emotional mastery can be seen in professional athletes. Think of a tennis player who loses a critical point in a match. They don't let anger take over. Instead, they reset, focus, and prepare for the next point. This same principle applies to relationships. Restraint doesn't mean you ignore your feelings. It means channeling them constructively. The philosopher Seneca emphasized this in his writings. No man is free who is not master of himself. When you demonstrate self-control, you exude an irresistible sense of calm. People are drawn to those who remain composed under pressure because it signals confidence and reliability. Let's talk about how this plays out in real-world relationships. When you argue with a partner, showing emotional restraint can shift the entire dynamic. Instead of escalating the conflict, you become the steady force that de-escalates it. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means expressing them with clarity and maturity. Take a page from the Stoic playbook. Practice emotional detachment in moments of frustration. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you refuse to let negative emotions dictate your actions. You acknowledge your feelings, understand their source, and choose a measured response. Consider this powerful analogy. Imagine your emotions are like a wild horse. Without control, it can run wild and cause chaos. But with training and patience, that same horse becomes a source of strength and grace. Emotional restraint is the reins that guide your energy toward productive outcomes. In relationships, this approach not only fosters respect, but also builds a deep sense of trust. Your partner will see you as someone who can navigate challenges with maturity and poise. This makes you a safe harbor in the storm of life, a quality that is undeniably attractive. Takeaway: mastering emotional restraint isn't about suppressing who you are. It's about enhancing your best qualities. When you practice this art, you cultivate a magnetic calm that draws people closer to you. In the next section, we'll explore how this calmness, combined with focused independence, creates an irresistible energy that others find impossible to ignore. Section 8. How calmness makes you irresistible. Imagine walking into a chaotic room where everyone is arguing or rushing around. Then, you spot someone sitting calmly, unaffected by the frenzy. Instantly, your attention is drawn to them. That's the magnetic power of calmness. It doesn't just make you stand out, it makes you irresistible. The Stoics believed that calmness under pressure was a hallmark of true wisdom and strength. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This simple truth reminds us that calmness comes from within, not from external circumstances. Calmness in the face of adversity is not indifference, it's resilience. It's knowing that you can't always control what happens, but you can control how you respond. Think about this in your daily life. When someone criticizes you or a stressful situation arises, do you react immediately, or do you take a breath and respond thoughtfully? That moment of pause can change everything. Consider the story of a ship captain navigating a violent storm. While the crew panics, the captain remains composed, guiding the ship to safety. That calm leadership inspires trust and respect. Similarly, in relationships, being the calm presence in emotional storms makes you the anchor others seek. From a psychological perspective, calmness signals confidence and emotional security, two qualities that are inherently attractive. When you remain composed, it shows you're not easily shaken by challenges, which makes others feel secure in your presence. People crave stability, and your calm demeanor becomes a sanctuary in a world often marked by chaos. Think of celebrities or leaders who exude calmness even under immense pressure. Barack Obama, for example, is often praised for his measured responses and calm demeanor, even in the most challenging situations. This quality not only commands respect, but also makes people want to listen and follow. In relationships, calmness can diffuse tension and build deeper connections. Picture this: your partner is upset about something minor, like a delayed text or forgotten chore. Instead of reacting defensively, you approach the situation calmly, acknowledging their feelings and offering a thoughtful response. That kind of composure diffuses arguments before they escalate and fosters mutual respect. The Stoics taught that calmness is a superpower cultivated through daily practices like mindfulness and reflection. Seneca advised, "Make your mind tougher by a simple way of life, and see to it that you are not dependent on the irregular and unstable gifts of fortune." By focusing on internal strength, you become less reliant on external validation, which naturally enhances your appeal. A practical tip to cultivate calmness is to focus on your breath during moments of stress. Breathing deeply activates your parasympathetic nervous system, signaling your body to relax. Over time, this practice rewires your brain to respond to stress with clarity instead of panic. Calmness is magnetic. It sets you apart as someone who is confident, secure, and in control of their emotions. Whether in relationships or life's challenges, maintaining your composure not only enhances your personal growth, but also makes you an irresistible presence to others. In the next section, we'll uncover the curious paradox of distance, how moving away can actually draw others closer to you. Section 9. How moving away sparks curiosity and heightens attraction. Have you ever noticed how the things we can't quite have are often the most desirable? Think about an exclusive event you couldn't attend or a limited edition item that sold out before you could grab it. Suddenly, it's all you can think about. The same principle applies to relationships. When you pull away, you create space for curiosity and desire to grow. The Stoics understood this paradox well. Epictetus famously said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, don't seek constant validation or approval. By stepping back, you let your actions and your absence speak louder than your words. Let's consider a real-life example. Imagine two people in a relationship. One partner constantly seeks attention, flooding the other with messages, calls, and affection. At first, it may seem endearing, but over time, it becomes predictable and even overwhelming. Now imagine the opposite scenario. One partner maintains a calm, independent presence. They engage meaningfully but don't overexert themselves in seeking attention. Who seems more intriguing? The answer is obvious. Psychologically, this phenomenon ties into the scarcity principle. The less available something is, the more we value it. When you create distance, it sends a subtle message. I am not dependent on your attention or approval. I value my time and energy. This self-assurance naturally attracts others, as it signals that you're not desperate to please. Consider the story of a renowned painter who stopped showcasing his art for years, retreating into solitude. People who once overlooked his work became obsessed, speculating about his mysterious disappearance. When he finally unveiled his new collection, it was met with overwhelming admiration. The time away heightened the value of his work. In relationships, moving away doesn't mean abandoning someone. It means valuing yourself enough to not over-pursue. This can look like focusing on your own passions, spending time with friends, or simply not being immediately available. Each action cultivates a sense of intrigue. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By stepping back, you shift your focus from controlling others to mastering your own emotions and actions. This shift not only gives you peace, but also makes others gravitate toward you. Take a moment to reflect. Are you constantly trying to fill silence with attention, or are you allowing space for curiosity to grow? Practice moving away in small ways, like taking time to reflect before responding to messages or prioritizing your own goals. You'll find that this distance often creates a gravitational pull, drawing people closer. Your journey to self-mastery and deeper connections starts with small but powerful steps. If this resonated with you, join the Stoic Affinity community to dive deeper into modern Stoic lessons for everyday life. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe for daily insights that transform how you see yourself and the world. Together, let's build a life of purpose, resilience, and unstoppable confidence.